Roblox is a children's platform. When I first discovered Roblox, I was in awe of the many games that were on the site. To me, the play button stoked every urge I had for near unsatiable amounts of imagination. Each game was a world, a story, an adventure that lit up the dark skies that covered my bedroom. But there's one genre I found myself avoiding at all costs. Horror. Roblox is no stranger to horror, yet as I grew up, my tolerance to the category turned from avoidance to curiosity, to eventually boredom. And so I began to wonder, what kind of games can developers make if they were allowed unrestricted freedom in making something deeply unsettling?
ねえ、昔ロードックスにあったゲームを見つかったんだけど、今もうないみたい。でも君見てみてよ。2010年代に実際に起きた事件を気にしなったゲームらしいよ。
And with that, allow me to take you, the viewer, on a journey to see what disturbing horrors can be found on the Roblox platform. You're thrusted in immediately with one objective: take your pills. And so looking around, one can already tell your character is short, small, and because of those two adjectives together, you can gather that your character is fairly young. The layout of your surroundings appear to be a basement, but only you there, living isolated. You do your tasks, drink some water, prepare some food, wash yourself, and then finally wait for father. Well, eventually your papa arrives, and so you go over to a hatch in the ceiling to meet him. Except you don't actually get to meet him. He talks to you from above ground towards you in the underground. Your character asks to be able to see her father come down to the basement, but for some reason he refuses. Instead, they ask him if he could tell her a story, to which he obliges, yet will keep it short. And so he goes on to narrate that today he went outside and saw a creature, a frightening beast that caused him to have immense fear throughout his body, to which marks the moral of the story being that she should never try to go outside. But that raises several questions. What happened to the outside world? Why won't her father come down to the basement to greet her personally and tell her the stories in person? What sort of monster was it that made him scared? What kind of pills did she take that makes her so sleepy so quickly? For now, we'll continue living out her day by going to sleep and seeing if we can get more answers by the following day. But before we go, her father presents us with a gift, as to alleviate her boredom: a diary. It is with this diary, however, that she first writes down her day one entry, which reads,
Today, Papa gave me this diary. I'm so happy. But he also told me a story from the outside. It seems like a really scary place. You'll hear from me tomorrow.
Except that's not all. Even in her sleep, the character is nightmarishly curious about what the outside world is like. And so, as the character moves forward throughout the isolated basement, we find that the hatch to the basement is left open. Day 2 starts out with the same routine: take your pills and finish the following task. Except this time we can water the plants, and as we do so, she makes an interesting comment,
Grow big and strong, little plant.
as if it is mirroring her, hoping that she too can grow up big and strong, since she is forced to rely on the isolated safety of the underground basement and the medicines that her father is giving her to help her fight off the outside disease. Even more curious today about the outside, the character asks her father if he ran into any more monsters today. He replies with an interesting little bit of information. The outside world is a mess, because the monsters are now able to imitate human voices. So this begs the question, even if the father can reassure her that he is real and not a monster, How would she even know? In fact, this father-daughter duo have never even seen each other face to face before, and his voice is the only connection she has to a world outside of this cage. Or is this a subtle hint that maybe it was already doomed from the start? The character, however, accepts this as a truth with a little bit of convincing from the father. But to us, the players, something is off, and things are not what they seem, and so our curiosity only grows. Each day progresses normally so far, but at night, the character's dreams get more and more outlandish. But undeniably, she dreams of walking through the basement towards the stairs, each time landing just before she can reach the hatch and going outside. So you have to wonder, is she having morbid dreams of escaping to see the outside, or is she tired of not being able to see her father face to face, a privilege almost every other children is able to have but her? To the player character herself, his voice is close, yet so far, separated by one single hatch, the same barrier she dreams of at night.
Today, Papa didn't come home. I was all alone and scared. I hope he comes back tomorrow. I hate it when I'm alone.
But it isn't until day 6 that players are given a choice, a life-altering choice. Do you continue taking the pills or not?
He's still not coming. It's been 4 days now. The pills make me tired. If he's not coming, do I even have to take them?
If you choose to not take the pills, and in doing so lie to her father, at night there are no nightmares, only a voice that rings out.
Are you awake? Alright, let's get to it then.
Before being interrupted by something as it runs back upstairs, leaving the player character to be awakened by the sound. This time, as you walk back to the stair where your father usually is, you notice that the hatch is open. Whether intentionally or not, you finally climb through. There's no one around the house, yet there's a receipt on the table that's proof of purchase for 5 sedatives. And so before the wave of questions kick in, you turn around and notice that the front door is unlocked. Stepping through, your player character finds herself outside in a neighborhood that seems entirely intact, unlike the stories her father made it out to be. And so, she takes a look up in the sky, at the sun, and asks why it hurts to look at, and what is it exactly? What does this mean? Did her father lie about the world being dangerous and overridden by monsters and disease? Why would he do so? Where did he go in a hurry? Why was there a police report on the wall? Well, there is an answer. If we go back to day 6 and choose to continue taking the pills, the days will start to blur into one another until it is the 147th day. And as of seemingly normal, it isn't until her final talk with her father that the game ends off with a question and an answer. We, the players, can finally understand what exactly is going on. The world is gone and in ruin due to monsters and disease. The only bastion of hope is left in your hands, guarded by your father, who fights tooth and nail to keep you safe. Except it's not. There was no disease, no hell outside, only a cage disguised as a lie. You play as a prisoner to a sick and twisted monster, not one born out of an apocalypse, but rather one made from sin. All those pills he made you take, so that you wouldn't be awake to face the reality of his perverted decisions. The reason as to why he never showed himself? Likely because underneath his actions, he too is a coward, one who understands the depth of his irredeemable choices, yet still continues to do so. The father-daughter trope in video games is born out of the paternal instincts many men have, but the creation of this game shows the farthest depths of betrayal one can experience from the protector. My Eyes Deceive is inspired by a short 2-sentence horror story where the creator draws his inspiration from the Reddit post. But disturbingly, his layout of the game's basement is inspired by the infamous 2008 Fritz case, a cautionary tale that betrayal never comes from someone you don't know, and that not all evil come in the shape of supernatural creatures. More often than not, they at least take the form one is most familiar with, and sometimes they're not very far.
We'll return after these messages.
You're telling me there's another game? Leftover scraps made by the same creator as the previous one, you say? Alright, fine, I'll check it out. But did I really have to drive out in the middle of nowhere to pick up this call though? Unlike the previous game, All Over Me is not a full story, rather a collection of short stories thrown away to be made into a connectionless narrative. And so, unlike the previous game, this one features depictions of mental illness, as opposed to the cruelties of humanity. And so, upon loading in, you'll be met with the first story. The world has vanished into nothing but whiteness. Lifeless it seems, no town or creatures were in sight, only dead trees. What feels alive, however, is the battle between my car and the storm. I can hear the solidarity of flakes rapidly launching at my car's body. In a few matter of seconds, to spare my car wipers, snow has entirely covered my window again. Maybe it's time to accept defeat. And just like that, the game sets up its narrative to be that this isn't a fall from grace story. No, rather this is a person who has already started giving up hope, as they live in a world that has already done so before them. Nothing alive besides the one desperately beckoning the protagonist to join them. And so we wake up next after questioning the existence of death, feeling cold and consolidating in the fact that there aren't any good people left in the world. Not ones that would live in a snowfield anyway. The protagonist finds themselves scanning their surroundings in a room after narrowly avoiding a car crash. Yet when they try to leave, they find the door jammed shut and are forced to look around again. This time, finding a speaker and a voice that rings out, telling them that they're in the recollection phenomena that will allow them to remember memories based on given medicine each day, with a final parting word for them to appreciate and cherish the moment. And so, deciding to take that medicine, another memory is awakened shortly thereafter. A kid's complex wasn't that complex, because it was my childhood. I used to live in a worn down apartment with my family, and that family was solely my mother. Every day was bland, and I could do nothing but eat, learn, and sleep. But every day was not every day. It was that final season that there was a great fondness. Yet said, the beauty of nature is close, each cold is seasoning with great tranquility. Each bird sits brooding in the snow, each snow angel is devoting little relish, each snowman removing bits of outcast, and yet winter just comes and goes. Winter is a melancholic being. It sleeps through its sorrow as early as possible. It storms the sheds of miserable tears of nature. It suffers the world's demise as the sun melts its entirety. It needs help, and yet pushes everything to their shelters. It feels solitude, but it chooses to wallow in there. Sometimes, winter just needs a warm hug. From here, we, the viewers, can glean a metaphor in this wintry poem. The narrator alludes to the season as being similar to their childhood. Whoever they are, they're taking a retrospective look on their childhood and makes a point to find a similarity in winter. Their childhood days being quite bland sometimes, used to the feeling of being alone, sleeping through their tears and sorrow, as well as wanting to reach out but choosing not to. And so, just like winter, they too just needed a hug from someone, anyone. We next pick up as the memories are now in the form of an in-depth recreation of the narrator's childhood home. A small apartment filled with snowing, falling at night. Here the narrator is recounting how excited they were when they were a child, how they see their past from an adult's perspective now. The narrator walking towards the window talks about how they had wished it was winter forever. A children's wish, to enjoy their happiness for as long as possible. On the table nearby, however, is a newspaper headlining how a child was found rescued from a basement after being imprisoned by her father for almost 10 years. Interesting. The apartment is but a small part of this, as you can walk out into the hallways, but it's quite damp in its atmosphere. Walking up and down the stairs, one can find the narrator slowly shifting from childhood happiness to growing depression. An older's complex feels different, because the mind itself is a complex now. I continue to survive in that worn down apartment with my lone family. Every day was bland and I could do nothing but eat and sleep, but every day was not every day. It was that final season that there was great contemplation. Tell me, Winter, what are you really hiding away below those snow? Is there really just snow? Or there is some kind of sick play? Oh, Winter, tell me. We are the same, Winter. We bury our sorrows with thick tears. We struggle with the definition of truth. We, with our own sun, slowly burning us out. We reject anything but our own self-rejection. I have become my own Winter. Their childhood, in their own words, is not complex. What is complex, however, is the changing of the seasons as they grow up. They now stop praising and contemplating winter itself, and accepted that the season and them are one and the same. Winter's pain and sorrows are truly their own pain and sorrows. Their question of what winter is hiding is the narrator consciously asking to understand and see what they're hiding from themselves. What really changed from the child that ran around excited to a person who, in their own words, merely survived in that place. I am now about to make the great adventure. I cannot endure this agonizing pain any longer. It is all over my body. Neither can I face the impending blindness. I pray the Lord my soul to take. Amen. We learn now that the narrator was a woman named Katarina, who died from cerebral hypoxia in an attempt of suicide. Perhaps the recollection phenomena was a hallucination, a dream conjured up by the mind in its last moments to show the person their happiest moments in life before moving on. Whatever it might be, Katarina was suffering from depression, as evident in her words about Winter suffering alone and quietly, how they wished it was that time of the year forever, as a way to relate to the cold. Even down to how they mentioned earlier that they don't believe good people exist anymore, and neither the excitement they used to feel when they lived together with their mother. This next story appears only through a series of text message, where you get a text from an unknown person asking if you're a mental health crisis hotline. Although you tell them you're not, the person takes it as a sign that they shouldn't have reached out. You, on the phone, take their message seriously, as they start talking as if they're resolute in doing what they had planned on doing. As you try to calm them down, they start devolving into a series of spiraling text message, as it's clear that they're not in the right headspace. You try and say whatever you can to alleviate their sudden mood shift, but it's starting to become worrisome. And so in a last-ditch effort, you call them, only to be met with, they shot themselves. For all your efforts at trying to empathize and care for a stranger who was obviously going through dark times, it didn't matter. Their mood shifted drastically, and the last known signs of their life lies within the remaining text messages between you two. You didn't know them, and they didn't know you, but you're both two humans who now won't know the consequences of your own actions. The next story in this game starts off with us, the players, playing through body cam footage. It's nighttime, and for some reason the bathroom door is locked out, but when picking up the phone, all you would hear is heavy breathing. Suddenly, the TV starts playing a broadcast about a missing girl who was kidnapped from the community.
Community is on edge as the intensifies for a young girl who was kidnapped. It's missing. Law enforcement agencies and concerned citizens have rallied together in a desperate effort to locate the girl and bring her home safely. The girl...
But right after the TV is done playing the message, sirens start blaring from a nearby police car, and you're finally prompted to enter the bathroom. Congratulations on being a kidnapper. The final two games in this collection, however, will be brief and short as they have no plot that I can make out. Again, the creator said that these are scraps of writing left over, but I'll still mention them. The fourth game can be summarized as a depiction of a chase. You don't know what wants you gone, but your only instinct is to progress. Until you're left in an open area with figures standing sprawled out. The fifth and final game seriously has no plot. You walk out through an exit door and are to be met with a woman singing, playing as you walk across a bridge, with figures known as a Japanese tarot doll hanging throughout the dark chasms around you as you cross. The Teru Bozu doll in Japan symbolizes a wish being fulfilled as long as enough sake was given. If not, then decapitation. They were commonly made by children during the Edo period. Children would also chant when making them. The game is likely a leftover scrap that never made it past the initial stages, but I assume it's representative of a wish being made, but ultimately was never granted. And that's a wrap. These were the two most unsettling games on Roblox that I could find that actually gave me a bit to think about. This video was posted up and finished a week ago, but I got a little lazy. There were some parts where I felt like I didn't explain it enough, so feel free to provide any missing context in the comments. If you're new here and made it to the end of the video, I deeply appreciate your support. If you have any more recommendations for what I should check out, then also feel free to place them in the comment sections. Until next time, goodbye.